I didn't come here to podcast. I came here to bust people's asses. Plus, an injury forces a heavy hitter to head home. We're diving deep into that beautiful cenote. The King's Palace is a partying. TJ's got a twist for these All-Stars. A brutal elimination sees this podcaster's favorite challenger heading home. And Jonna still has yet to figure out how to properly mount that floaty flamingo. It's the Challenge All-Stars 2 Episode 6 recap coming up right now. Welcome to The Challenge Historian, where we dive deep into all things MTV's The Challenge, past, present, or future. If it's happening in the Challenge universe, then we are here to document it. I am your host and dedicated Challenge historian, Jacob Hollabaugh. Thank you so very much for being here with us today. On today's podcast, we are chatting about all things All-Stars 2, Episode 6. We've entered the back half of the show. We've entered the pairs portion of the show. Twist there from TJ. We've got a brutal elimination, an injury DQ, and a whole bunch more to talk about. Plans for today's pod, same as it has been for most of this season of All-Stars. We will start with the Cliffnotes recap up first, then walk through some of the biggest storylines of the episode, follow that up with awards for Best Fit, Best Quote, Best Moment, Episode MVP, and finish up by updating our power rankings and season-long predictions. As always, thank you so much for being here, listening to this podcast. It does truly mean the world to me. Anyone that listens to these musings on the world's best reality competition show, in my opinion, my humble opinion, thank you for doing so. Make sure you've hit that follow or subscribe button wherever you are listening or watching so that you don't miss an episode. And also, big thank you to allowing this podcast to be a slight bit later this week, a day later than normal. I couldn't help myself. I had to go to the very first possible showing of the new Spider-Man movie yesterday, which is right smack when I would normally have been recording and producing and posting this podcast. So thanks for waiting on the delay. It's been a huge week in the world of reality television. So maybe you aren't caught up either, and this isn't an issue for you in any single way. But between Survivor finale, Challenge finale, All-Stars back half starting, all kinds of crazy stuff going on. So thank you for being here. With that, let's get right on into it with that Cliffnotes recap. All right, so another action-packed episode, as they all tend to be at this point. They really do a great job on the edit of this show of, they stick to the, we got the house, we got the daily, we got the house, we got the arena, all in about a tight 40 minutes or so, but they really do a good job of breaking up and only showing us the really pertinent stuff, but still mixing in some of those fun little moments like the Jonna trying to get on a floaty flamingo that make All-Stars so great and these people so wonderful to hang out with and spend time with. So here's everything that happened as fast as possible. All of the plot points of this episode, Episode 6 of All-Stars 2. In 3, 2, 1, and we are off. Tech, Melinda, and the whole King's Palace Alliance / bedroom is a dancing and a celebrating their 2 victories and eliminations. Now called maybe the 4 horse people or 3 kings and a queen or something like that. Probably just King's Palace. They're just going to stick with that, even with Melinda joining the fold. Then Tyler and Janelle have a chat before a heavy rainstorm cuts it short. Jasmine and Ayana try to help Jonna figure out how to work a flamingo floaty, and Kendal calls home to chat with her 3 adorable children. Off to a daily challenge they go called Deep Dive. In pairs, they have to jump 30 feet down into the cenote. Back at the cenote, if they would choose, they can go down to the 15-foot, use a little time. Each person has to then swim down 15 feet underwater twice to get puzzle pieces out of a treasure chest. Once you've got all 4 bags of pieces, you can climb out and up to where the puzzle is put together. Fastest to get the puzzle done wins. Slowest is going straight to the arena. Everyone jumps, everyone gets the pieces, everyone finishes the puzzle. A much more impressive outing from this group of All-Stars than previous dailies on the season. But after struggling with the puzzle, it is Tyler and Jasmine that are headed to the arena, and Brad and Jody that are once again in power. After they finish, TJ then reveals a twist. The partners they have chosen for that day are now their partners for the entire rest of the game. For some, this is wonderful. For others, not so thrilled. Back at the house, Brad and Jody force the life shields to be played and the votes to be burned so they can get the numbers going against Kendal and Laterian, who they plan to throw in, and the house backs them up. Before that can happen, though, Kendal heads to the hospital. She was injured upon jumping in the water that day and needs to get her ribs checked out. At the arena, we find out, unfortunately, Kendal has been medically DQ'd, which, fortunately for Jasmine, means that the women are safe for the night. No others will be going home. It'll just be a boys-only elimination between Laterian and Tyler facing off in pole wrestle. And boy, is it brutal. It almost always is, but this one certainly was way up there. Laterian does Laterian things and slams Tyler into the ground a bunch. A monster effort from both sides leads to ultimately Tyler taking the loss, heading home in the King's Palace, rejoicing in victory once again. Whew. All right, let's dive into some of the storylines of the episode then a little more in depth here. And really only the place to start talking about this episode is where they both started and ended the episode, and that is with the King's Palace, or the four horse people, or the three kings and a queen, whatever that bedroom has decided to call themselves. It seems by the end of the episode, Melinda's pretty comfortable with still just calling it the King's Palace, so that's what we'll continue to refer to it as. But the episode starts with, last week it was made clear, it's Laterian, Tech, and Nehemiah for sure. And then they thought Steve and Melinda were a part of it because they were in their bedroom and they were going to protect anyone that they were sleeping in the same room as. And turned out Steve wasn't quite thinking 100% with them. They get rid of him, Tech beats him in an elimination and send him home. So when they come back in, it is very clear right away. They do the little dance, they do a little champagne toast. There is a lot of breaking of the fourth wall, which is somewhat of a new thing for sure on the show. They're obviously always aware of the cameras there, and we as fans, you can kind of, if you actually think about it and everything that you're seeing, they do a damn good job of trying to not have, production or camera people in the background of shots, but you realize, they are in a small bedroom and the camera is right up there. So there's a cameraman standing 3 feet away from them in this moment, of worst case, in the doorway, 10 feet away. But they turn and talk directly to the camera, which is, again, kind of a new-ish thing to have that kind of level of fourth wall breaking. But they're all partying. Melinda, very clearly a part of this alliance now. If she wasn't before, she is 100% now. The four of them are sticking together, and they're now on 3 elimination wins for the season. They would add a 4th by the end of the episode, with Laterian getting a win. And we will talk a little bit later when we talk about the pairs, who was helped and who was hurt by the twist in the game as far as alliances. But I think they definitely, for them, a good episode for the King's Palace as far as, Tyler goes home and Kendal goes home. Neither of those people were working with them in any way. And at, worst case, we're working with the kind of alliance that's building against them. And best case was just not working with them. So either way, they had a successful episode and are still very much, they're putting it in people's faces. Everyone knows these four are working together. They don't care. They are having fun, celebrating it. And they got some dance moves. Loved the opening, how excited they were. And you got to be, if you're coming back to All Stars at this point in your life, coming back and doing challenges, you win an elimination, even if you're Melinda and you're I didn't actually have to win my elimination. The other person kind of quit, but I don't care. I got sent to elimination and I'm still here at the end of the night. Do a champagne toast, dance a little bit, celebrate, have fun. So enjoyed seeing that. Then we've got to talk about Kendal. Kendal was definitely one of the stars of the episode, and eventually, would go home with the medical DQ. We start the episode off getting to call home, which, as always, we will pose the question, how often, in what circumstances allow these people to be able to do the Zoom calls? Are they, the ones like Kendal who have a bunch of kids running around at home? Are they doing a Zoom call every day? Are they doing, how is that handled? I wish we knew. I'm sure if I did a little bit better job of listening to all of the podcasts out there, someone somewhere would let this slip of how much of that is allowed. But she gets to call home. It is completely and utterly adorable. She's talking to her 3 boys. We find out there's there was an interesting moment in their conversation where she starts, or what we see at least of the start of it, is her telling them, one in particular who's, I apologize, I did not write down his name. I think it might have been Cooper, but the 8-year-old, I remember that he's 8. But the oldest one, Kendal, tells him, hey, guess what I did today? I swam in the pool and I held my breath and swam to one side and all the way back in one breath. And at first, you're kind of like, at least me watching, I was like, that's, like an interesting thing to lead the conversation with your 8-year-old about. But then it is clarified a little more when we find out Cooper, who, again, sorry if I'm getting your name wrong, little guy, but is her new trainer. And she is, pretty fearful of being underwater. And so he has been helping her with that. And then the comment of, the accomplishment she had makes much more sense and goes from like, it was an odd thing to say to, oh my God, this is adorable. And I'm not crying, you're crying. So that was super cute. And then we get to the mission, and she jumps into the cenote 30 feet up and lands on her side and is clearly hurt right away. And after the end of the episode, she gets hurt in the moment and she's clearly hurt. They comment on it multiple times. She's not really moving. She's just kind of making some noises and like chilling for a minute. And then she eventually does swim down and do it. And they finish the whole thing. And at that point, you're like, okay, she's fine because, she, took a bad fall, breath knocked out of her, whatever, but got her stuff together and pulled off, did the whole thing, and she's good to go. And then when we later find out that she has some sort of condition that allows, she says at some point to the effect of has constant, muscles or bones popping out of place, dislocations, things of that nature, that she has a muscle tissue something or other that makes for very susceptible to stuff like this, which makes me think you super duper brave of you to be on this style of show where you are constantly, this is not the first time you've jumped in the water from that high up. This is not the first time you've gotten in very physical demanding challenges and eliminations and things in your challenge pass. So, unbelievable that she's even doing these shows in the first place with that being the case. But even more so, once we find out that she has legit like bad rib injuries and is medically disqualified, the fact that she in that water in that moment was able to swim down 15 feet, which is way deeper than people give credit for. Every time they say that, I'm like blown away. And it's like, 15 feet, that doesn't sound like much to a lot of people. Maybe I'm a real baby about, I have no problem being underwater, but I can't go very deep underwater. I have really sensitive ears. The pressure gets a lot. So for me, going down 15 feet, not a walk in the park, not enjoyable. And for her to do that with messed up ribs where her breath is not, at where it needs to be doing something like that, for her to finish the whole thing, she is an absolute warrior. Very, very impressive. Very, very unbelievable stuff from her. And she does then eventually, get DQ'd. It had to be to some degree talked into, convinced like, yeah, you should probably, like, if you think you're legit hurt like that, like you should go get it looked at because like there's only bad outcomes if you don't kind of thing. Like there's a very, very small chance that everything's totally fine, but it doesn't seem like it is. So like, go get it looked at. She goes home, very, very sad. She, came into All-Stars 1 as a one and done champion. Had a good run there, was kind of one of the dominating physical threats of that game, and then got eliminated late in the big upset with her and Nehemiah losing to Easy and Yusela. Comes into this one, and we've had her 1 or 2 in the power rankings the whole time through. She, along with Jody, who she was kind of partnered up and working with, were definitely, physically, and I'll throw Janelle in as the trio of them are kind of separating themselves on physically. There's a divide we've talked about before and we'll continue to talk about throughout the season in those that are a little more in game shape than the others at this point. And it's on the men's side, it's on the female side. And she was definitely one of those above the line, ready to go for this. And so for the rest of the women in the house, you're sad that your friend and this lovely, wonderful person, this warrior, is sent home medically, but you're also a little bit relieved that you don't have to face her anymore. And if you're Jody, you're heartbroken that your kind of number one ally and your best buddy in the house is going home, but also like, yeah, the path is very clear for Jody to get the win here now. So, we'll say our goodbyes to Kendal. Bummer that she gets sent home in this way. Hope she is doing fully okay. Hope she's back to training with Cooper. Wonderful looking family there. So that's Kendal. Then we've got the big twist of the episode. Got to talk about that, which, let's talk about the actual daily challenge first, and then we'll talk about the twist, since the twist is at the end of the daily challenge. The daily challenge itself, overall grade for the daily challenge, I would say I'm going to give it a B+. I'm going to put it at the high end of the B range because I really enjoyed this challenge. I'm going to guess that consensus out there might be slightly lower than I am on it, but I'm giving it a B+. Very, very good challenge. Physical water element, dash of heights thrown in, nice puzzle that should be done fast. And that's the key. Is I like when the puzzle is something, when they're going to do the physical with a puzzle, there's kind of two halves to it. You got to do something physical, then you got to finish the puzzle. I like when the puzzle is one that is very capable of being done fast and almost to level of saying should be done fast, because it sets up the loser. No one's going to not finish it. No one's going to take 35 minutes with it and be like, give up or time out or anything like that. It's going to be, everyone's going to do it pretty fast, and we're going to move through these teams very quickly. And it's going to be the one person or the one team that, takes 4 minutes instead of 2 minutes. And I just kind of like the pace of that a little better. And I don't know. I bet if I was doing it, if I was actually there partaking in the challenge, I feel like I would like that better, and it would be more suspenseful and, exciting and everything like that. So liked all of it. Liked that they have to jump off the 30-foot. They can get, they can take the time to climb down a shitty ladder to the 15-foot if they want to waste, 45, 60 seconds and jump from a little bit lower. And then, so B+ overall. Only Jasmine and Casey go lower, but they do jump. So hats off to them. Everyone jumps, including Casey, who, yes, she goes to the lower one, but she clearly has no problem. She's like, I'm here to do this stuff. And so, she did it once. She then didn't do it the next time. And now she's 2-1 right now, going against her fear of heights. So good job by her, by Jasmine, by everyone. They get the jump. Everyone completes the puzzle. They all dive down, get the puzzle pieces. They all get up. They all complete the puzzle. So TJ, while he doesn't say it, has got to be impressed, from where we were in episode 1, where he's kind of like, you guys, you're supposed to be all-stars. What's going on here? This is pathetic, to this performance, the best of the season as a group, for sure. And again, 15 feet is a lot deeper than I think a lot of people give credit for. Or maybe I'm just trying to justify it in my own mind of thinking that how hard that would be for me personally, when everyone else, all these people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s have no problem with it. But impressed that they all completed it. I would have assumed when he explained the challenge, I thought for sure someone wasn't going to finish, at least once we found out that everyone had to do 2 puzzle pieces, which was a key rule that was not explained, but eventually implied that, one person couldn't just swim and get all 4 of them if someone was a way better swimmer than their partner. So impressed overall, B+ daily challenge. Liked it. We get to the end and we find out the big twist. So let's talk about that now. The partners, they're paired up for the rest of the season. They're told beforehand, you got to get in pairs and make a good choice. And they get in the pairs. We have the moment of, a few people go right immediately to each other. They're already standing next to who they want. Brad and Jody, Darrell and Janelle are pretty quick to like, yep, we're together. Nehemiah, Melinda, very quick to be like, oh, yep, we're together. Casey has the moment of the season, the moment of her career for her, when Tyler, a great competitor, comes up as like, Casey, you have a partner? Good. You want to work together? And then Kahada, a great competitor, is like, nope, Casey, you're with me. Too bad, Tyler. Like, you're with me. So having Kahada and Tyler fight over you, gotta feel great. But that then leaves Jasmine and Tyler together as a pair. And, they're kind of the last choices. And eventually that would come back to haunt both of them, more so Tyler in this respect. But as far as this is then made, they do the challenge at the end. They're told, this is now your team for the rest of the challenge. So looking at this first let's look at this first from the fact that they even had this twist in the first place. And I will say there has been on this podcast, on social media, on many other podcasts, on all throughout the challenge universe, a lot of discussion of the flagship series versus All-Stars. And there's been a lot of discussion of the many reasons that All-Stars seems to have a higher favorability right now over the flagship. And one of the many parts of that, opined by many of the OGs and legends, both in the game of All-Stars and just talking about it outside of the game, has been that it's back to being a simple thing and that it's more focused on the people and the stories and the nostalgia of it all and the fun time and the vibes. And it's not, what the main series is, where it's all convoluted and complicated and we don't know what's going on anytime. But they're bringing the big twist to All-Stars. They're going, just switching things up right in the middle, completely switching the format of the show. And gotta just say, be careful, producers. I like this one independently in a vacuum on its own. I like this. I'm okay with this. Let's see some pairs. But you're already, 15 episodes in. You're adding to the whole All-Star series in general. You're going to add a big twist. You're starting to go down the road that so far has not, has eventually, it bared fruit originally on the flagship show, but it nowadays is something that a lot of people think is hurting the flagship show and are opining for, can we just have, myself very much among them, can we just have a season where it's just your pairs, these are the teams the whole time, or these are teams the whole time, you're individual the whole time, no big change of format types of twists. So careful, producers, what you're doing. Let's talk what it actually means for this game in general. We alluded to it before. I guess the easiest way to phrase the question is, does this help or hurt the King's Palace? And how does it affect all of the alliances in the house? So starting with the King's Palace, which again, Laterrian, Tech, Nehemiah, Melinda, those four. Well, you've got Nehemiah and Melinda paired, so they're even more together than they were in the first place. And then by the end of the episode, Laterrian has Jasmine as his partner. Tech has Ayana, who it should be said, Ayana makes it known. I want Tech mostly because I like looking at him. So watch back there, Tech. She's coming for you. But does this mean then where are the alliances going to fall? I would assume Ayana, who we haven't really seen. We've seen her have good relationships, positive relationships with plenty of the people in the house, but we haven't seen her necessarily be a part of any strong alliance or have any number one or number two type of people in the game. She's one of the few people left in the game that is kind of a free agent, more or less, as far as alliances go. And so I would assume she is, with Tech, going to very much be voting with and supporting this alliance. Jasmine is the big swing. Jasmine now with Laterrian. If she wants to really fully join up, not with just her partner, but her partner's alliance, could she then bring Jonna, who the two of them, Cancun background, working together? Can Jasmine and Jonna and Ayana, all three, join these other four? And now you've got 7 people out of the 14, voting with you. Or Jasmine and Jonna kind of still doing their own thing. Is Jonna, no matter what, going to be with MJ, and it's going to be 8-6, and the other side's going to win out when MJ, Darrell, Kahada, Brad, those 4 were known to be working with each other. So then, and Janelle is going to be working with Darrell. We knew that before. Now they're partners, so that's solid. Brad and Jody, they were going to work together before. Now they're partners. That's solid. Kahada's got Casey, who was a little bit of a free agent as well, but was a little more friendly with that group. And then MJ, it has Jonna. And so it's like, all right, well, they've got 8. So it's kind of 8-6 with Jasmine and Jonna now being clearly these swings in the middle of, are they both going to go with their partners and their partners' alliance? Is there any way that we can get this to 7-7 by Jasmine being like, we should ride with King's Palace over here. Jonna, you should be with me. Is there any bit of then Jonna being like, MJ, me and you are the swings here, or Kahada and Casey, you're the swings? Because I think Darrell, Janelle, Brad, and Jody, that's locked. That's locked down. Those 4 are absolute locks, as are the 4 of the King's Palace. Absolute locks. But how can they swing this middle? It's very even right now. So it's going to make for a good, exciting, suspenseful, strategically rest of the show, hopefully. Final storyline then to quickly touch on is the arena itself. We only get one matchup with Kendal being DQ'd. Again, Jasmine have to be thanking her stars. I'm interested to knowing the very little we do about how the production works and how, this is all very, very pre-planned. And we've cited this one interview and one comment a lot, but I will cite it again. At the beginning of Spies, Lies, and Allies, Ryan Smith, I believe his name is. I always forget, even though it's like the most simplistic common name there's ever been. I think it's Ryan Smith, the executive producer, Spies, Lies, and Allies, talked about the idea that anything is, how much the producers are playing a part, how in advanced all of this is laid out, and the only time they change anything is when when an injury, and he cites in Spies, Lies, and Allies, when Anissa got hurt, we simply just, the elimination was already set up, but we found a way to change it from a 2-person to a 1-person elimination. So with that knowledge, I assume that this was always going to be pole wrestle, no matter what. Although you would say if they had to alternate from some 2-person thing to a 1-person one, the easiest alternating possible is, we only need a pole for the other one. Literally, we need one very small piece of equipment that we have at the ready. So if we want to scrap whatever else was built and just put that's fine. Because they've definitely, we're never ever, I hope, seeing a hall brawl on All Stars. They've allowed it to be very, very physical, but they're not putting football pads on this series. They're kind of eliminating a little bit of the physicality, which is the correct thing to do from the flagship show. So I wonder if it was always going to be pole wrestle, and if Jasmine and Kendal were going to have to do a pole wrestle, and if it was going to be, we don't know now from a format perspective, is it, if Kendal would have been there to perform, if they all do pole wrestle, is it an individual Jasmine and Kendal do their own individual match, and Letarian and Tyler do their own match, and the winners of each are now partners the rest of the game? Or is it a partner version where they alternate and, Tyler and Jasmine have to win 2 rounds total out of 3 or 3 out of 5 or whatever it would have been? So we still don't have 100% now know the format of how. I assume it's always going to be actual pair versus pair, and not individuals and changing the teams. If it's individuals and the 2 winners are now a new pair, and they go full double agent Spies, Lies, and Allies, I think there's going to be a massive outcry by people. So hoping for their sake they don't do that. But we get a pole wrestle. Obviously, the grade for the elimination is an A+. Pole wrestle almost always gets an A+. And when it's a great one, which this was a great one, it of course gets an A+. It was absolutely brutal, a true heavyweight matchup. And man, Letarian now twice in a row, 2 seasons in a row that he gets the honor of going in and doing the game that is tailor-made for him. This could not play to his strengths anymore. I would say the three things you need in pole wrestle more than anything else, outside of, yes, if you have like a jiu-jitsu background or a wrestling background, very, very helpful. But if you didn't grow up doing one of those things, the 3 main things: strength, heart, and aggression. You could substitute, endurance, heart. I'm calling it heart because in this one, it's not necessarily actually your endurance. It's how much pain and suffering you're willing to take. So strength, heart, aggression. Letarian's got all 3 of those in spades. I would find it hard pressed to find anyone, an All-Stars certainly, that's going to beat him in this game, and very few people that I would consider a threat to beat him even in the flagship. So brutal matchup between the 2. Cannot believe that he found the alignment, the configuration, and then the strength to still slam Tyler into the ground multiple times. Not nearly, thankfully for Tyler's body, which I'm sure is very hurt and beaten up, as is Letarian's after this, but not quite as horrendously as Letarian slammed Ace into the ground over and over and over on the first episode of All Stars 1. What a welcome to the world that was for All Stars when that happened, and was just terrifying and exhilarating to watch at the same time. This was very much of that. Tyler puts up an incredible fight, hell of a fight. I found it interesting. This is the first time I think maybe in history they've ever had, the pull with kind of zigzag pull, if you will, so that each person had clear kind of handholds to hold onto, but it allowed for you to kind of wrap an elbow in one of the little crevices there and little holds there. Tyler ultimately got good position multiple times, got it where, Laterian was on his back with the pole on his chest and just couldn't find a way to get around to win. Kept finding himself, even in that good position, having both hands on the very end, with Laterian still having hand, end and middle, and just a much more solid grip. And just overall, Laterian gets the win. We got to say goodbye to my favorite cast member from this season, and most any season almost he is on. If you listen to the preview extravaganza for this season, I was as excited about anyone. It was Tyler, and thought he had a great performance in these 6 episodes. I think he's going to be sorely missed in the house. As always, the people that are the most fun in the house have a big advantage in the game, and also just have a big place in everyone else's hearts, those watching included. So we got to say goodbye to Tyler, and to Tundra, I guess, is now we're saying goodbye to her as well. So goodbye to a fan favorite, a podcaster's favorite. Very, very much hope to see Tyler on these All-Star seasons, many to come, knowing that he's a teacher out in the real world. Just, producers, film this stuff in the summer. Come back every single summer. Maybe that's every other season, whatever it is. But hope to see Tyler back more. With that, we talked to the arena, the daily challenge, partners, Kendal, King's Palace. I think that's pretty much all the storylines I've got down here. So let's then move into the awards segment and hand out some hardware for the best outfit, moment, quote, MVP, and all of that good stuff. Hardware time. We start, as we have started every episode this season, with the best fit, the best outfit of the episode, which at this point, we might as well just go ahead and, we've said over and over, this was essentially made just to comment on all of Tech's wonderful outfits. We're going to go ahead and just officially name this award the Tech Money Award for the best fit of the episode. And Tech is a nominee once again for his arena garb. Not in the arena this week, so he gets to put on one of his best outfits for it, and stand up there on the podium looking great and fresh in the patterned button-up over the white pants and sandals. Just looking amazing. No wonder Ayana wants him as a partner, just to look at him more. Very, very fair assessment there from her. Also nominated, MJ, for a very simple look, but a very effective one. The classic MTV shirt. There's a few kind of classic, there's a lot of 90s stuff that floats around on these seasons. There's a lot of classic MTV wear that I don't know if these people still have from back in the day, or they were provided some of them to wear. But MJ, the combo of his classic, by classic MTV, I mean like the logo on the front, it's a white tee with the like kind of classic bubbly type of MTV logo on the front, really, really big all across the front. That with just the hair he's rocking and the different types of headbands he throws on to kind of poof that hair up even further, let it fall down a little bit, everything about it. It all just works. It looks great. But the third nominee and the winner of the Tech Money Award for the best fit of the episode is Brad, who Brad makes some choices in his time and power in this episode. And it starts, we get pieces of the outfit one at a time that comes together in the arena. But in the selection process, I wrote down first that Brad, just the gall of wearing the knee-high plain white socks with sandal, he might have had tennis shoes on at that point, in like the gym shorts and the tank top. Just having those knee-high socks on, he was already getting nominated for this award. It was just a hell of a look to be sitting in the power chair and rocking those socks. But then we get to the arena, and he's still got the knee-high socks on, still got just the shorts on, so you can see the socks in full effect. But then he's got the black tank with the white bucket hat that is way too small for his head. And the combo of that small white bucket hat with that big ol' amazing beard of his, which is commented on multiple times this episode, as it should be every episode. It's unbelievable. The small white bucket hat, the beard, the black tank, the knee-high white socks. it's a look for sure, and it is the winner of the for this episode of the Tech Money Award for the best fit of the episode goes to Brad for that arena look. Hats off to you, Brad. Then, best moment of the episode. A lot of nominees here. 5 of them, in fact. The first one, the very open of the episode, the King's Palace dancing in victory, talking straight to the camera, doing their toast. Loved every moment of that. Then the second one, which I don't know if I'm going to, I don't think it's going to win the award for the best moment, but it might have been my personal favorite moment of the episode. So yes, I am clearly objective about this stuff. I don't just pick my favorites. I pick the ones I think deserve to win. But my favorite probably was Jonna attempting to get on the floating flamingo. These are the little moments that I mentioned at the very top of this. They do such a good job of fitting as much in as possible on this very, very quick pace, this plot heavy episode by episode, finding the little moments that are still just so much fun of Jasmine and Ayana are up on the balcony chatting, calling down to Jonna, who's trying to just have a nice little float, sunbathe in the pool, and trying to help her, like, how do you get on a floating flamingo? Do you put your feet around the neck of the flamingo? Do you just lay flat in the middle of it, like on your back? Are you supposed to lay on your front? How do you paddle it all in? How does this work? Them trying to give her instructions, which amount to all it needs to is just get on. Like it floats, sit in the middle, you'll be fine. And then her finally being like, okay, I'll get on, and jumping on and immediately flipping the whole thing over. And I think she had a drink in her hand when she did it. So hopefully that probably ended up all in the pool. I forget if she put it down beforehand or not, but the whole thing is just hilarious and fun. And the type of moments that I'm here for over and over and over on this show, the flagship show, any challenge show there is. Then third one, Kendal's call home. We talked about before, but absolutely adorable and wonderful and a good little heartwarming look into her life outside of the game. So that was a great moment. Then the fourth and fifth nominee, the fourth one, TJ revealing partners for the rest of the season and the twist. It's a big twist. It was unexpected. It's definitely a big moment of the episode, certainly. So it's nominated. And then the fifth and final nominee, anytime we get a pole wrestle, it's one of the best moments of the episode. It's one of the best moments of the season. This one, and when it lives up to it, it is one of the best moments of the season. This one certainly was that. It was an absolute brutal battle of two warriors, and it wins the award for the best moment of the episode because I am one of those people that maybe you, as I always break this show down into the sport in the show, I'm one of those people that loves the sport side as much or more than the show side from time to time, where I just get so geared up when, this was one of those, I stood up out of my chair when they started this pole wrestle because I was beyond on the edge of my seat. I was so into it. And think that it has the ability to have those kinds of moments, and some people that just don't really even care about the sport side of this and just want the show stuff and want Jonna flipping the floaty flamingo. I'm there for that too, obviously, but the best moment of the episode was the pole wrestle, so that is that. Best quote. We've got 5 nominees, 3 of which are Letarians. So let's go ahead and get the other 2 out of the way because Letarian's going to win. We just have to figure out which one of Letarian's many wonderful quotes and comments from this episode are going to win. So Tyler, with respect, does get nominated for the commenting on himself jumping into the cenote and swimming through the cenote and everything that went with it, as thinking I'm a beautiful gazelle, but really, honestly, if you really look it over, I'm a big sweaty musk ox. So he makes that comparison analogy. Let's hear that from him himself.
In my head, I feel like I'm a beautiful little gazelle prancing across the Serengeti.
Oh my God! Dang, Tyler.
But in reality, I'm that big, sweaty muskox near the pond.
Oh, she's going down.
Then we've got Kahada commenting on the very same thing Tyler was on Tyler's performance and how adept Tyler is in the water, which is very, very true, not just from this moment, but if you remember his career early on, very accomplished swimmer in his youth. Tyler was definitely his kind of ace in the hole. The reason originally early on people didn't realize how much of a physical threat he was, how great of an athlete he was in his early days on the show, because he was such an accomplished swimmer and how much swimmers are like way better athletes than most the rest of athletes in general. And Kahada comments on how amazing Tyler is in the water. So let's hear that from him.
Tyler is an absolute fish. I checked behind his ears to see if he had those little gill slit things, little water world things behind his ears, which he doesn't. But he can make wake in the lake.
Making a wake in the lake. Cenote, Kahada. This is a cenote, not a lake. But anyways, both those nominated, but the Letarians win this award. We just got to figure out which one. He has 3 different quotes that we're going to nominate. First one is when at the beginning, when they're doing their little dance and their celebration, he comments on the odds of ever seeing him, Letarian, dancing. So let's hear that first quote from him.
I dare you to be in a room with Tech and Nehemiah and not want to dance and sing. You've seen me on all these other shows. You ever think that I would fucking dance? You used to be like this with the 3 kings. Now with the 4 horsemen. 4 horsemen. We letting them run. 4 horse people. 4 horse.
Then his second nomination for quote of the week is what he came to the challenge to do. And I believe, I didn't go back and double check, but he said something very similar to this the first time around in All-Stars 1. But I'm glad we got to hear his goals, his objectives for this season again. So let's hear straight from Letarian himself what he came to All-Stars 2 to do.
The thing about the King's Palace and the love that I get from Melinda and Tech and Nehemiah is unmatched in this house. Keeping this experience going is amazing. But I didn't come here to have a good time. I came to bust people's ass, win this money, go home.
Definitely busted some ass on this episode. And then third and finally, he immediately after the elimination, he's won. He's super sweaty. He's still got adrenaline coursing through him. He's hyped up. He does his little post-game interview moment. And he talks about if you're going to face him in anything, let alone in a challenge elimination, win or lose, you're going to get something. And Letarian, what are they going to get?
Anybody in any challenge, in any elimination, for now and forevermore, if you come for me, you're gonna get me. That's it. Point blank, period. I'm not bragging, I'm not boasting. But you're not gonna come for me and me not give it to you. Win or lose, I'm giving you the fucking business. Is that a goat?
That right there. The win or lose, you're going to get the business. That alone might have won quote of the week, but then adding on the very end, when after he's done saying it, there's some animal noise in the background. He just turns, is that a goat? Makes a great quote followed by a nice little funny, impromptu, weird thing that happens. So that's your winner. Letarian quote of the week, whichever one you want to pick. Good by you. I'm going with win or lose. You're going to get the business. Letarian's quote of the week, and he's also the episode MVP. Tyler gets some votes, and if this was a fully biased, again, I'm super objective about this stuff, guys. If this was biased, Tyler would get the episode MVP on his way out because he was my favorite on the season. But Tyler got some votes, Jasmine gets some votes, Kendal gets some votes, but Letarian gets the win. His alliance is starting to do what I thought they were not going to necessarily do. They are still getting targeted the way I thought they would, but they are winning and winning and winning, and he wins in impressive fashion. He gets to do what he is best at. Puts on a hell of a performance, beats a hell of a competitor in Tyler, and it shows clearly multiple different times why he would be the best teammate in this game, maybe in the history of this game, with how much he's talking up Kendal while she's there, how much he's talking up immediately Jasmine when they are partnered up at the end. Letarian is your episode MVP. So those are your awards. Letarian, the MVP. He also had the best quote. The best moment was pole wrestle. The best fit went to Brad. Now let's move into the final portion of this podcast, update those power rankings, and talk about some season-long predictions. So with our power rankings, we are going to have to make a slight adjustment here. Now that we're in pairs, no more, assuming TJ's actually going to keep his word, and they did make his wording explicit in saying for the rest of the season. So it seems like they were, not until I tell you otherwise, but like this is how we're doing the whole rest of the thing. So I assume a pair of people is crossing that finish line in that final and winning that $500,000 between them. So instead of individual male-female power rankings, we're doing team power rankings until TJ tells us otherwise. So we've got 7 teams left. We're going to go ahead and just rank them 1 to 7. Why do a top 5 when there's only 7? Might as well just someone's got to be in last for this moment. And so at the top, no surprises here. They were both at the top of the individual power rankings. Now they're a team and they just won another daily challenge. Brad and Jody are obviously far and away the team to beat. And I think legitimately far and away. I don't think anyone else is even close to them. I think they're going to potentially win. For the betterment of the show, I hope they don't just win every single daily challenge, but it feels like outside of just a straight up, like just a puzzle. All we're doing today is a puzzle, fair game for everyone. If there's a big physical element at all, feels like they're going to run away with it. Jody and Brad, number 1. Janelle and Darrell, number 2. They do lose the small advantage lost from them of no one really knows necessarily yet, or from the outside with the edit that we're getting, no one yet knows that they're close and that they know each other from way back, like outside of the world of reality television and the challenge and everything else. But now that they're partners and they're partners for good, the idea of them working together is obvious because they're partners for the rest of the game. So they do lose that tiny little advantage, but I think, Janelle is the only other one left, I think, in the same stratosphere as Jody physically on the female side. And I think Darrell, there's more, the male side's a lot closer. Physically, I still think Brad is kind of above everyone else, but Darrell is right there with them and is just playing such a confident game and a fun game. So Janelle and Darrell, number 2. Melinda Nehemiah, number 3. Very impressed with their performances all around and obviously leading, if their alliance is the one that wins out, they should be number 1 on this list because I think they're the best team within their own alliance. Number 4, Jonna and MJ, solid team. They're kind of, as we talked about, that float vote. I don't see them necessarily getting voted in right away until, I guess maybe being in that middle spot maybe means you're targeted by both sides. We shall see. But they're in 4th. Ayana and Tech in 5th. Jasmine Letarian in 6th. Casey Kahata in 7th. Mostly Jasmine Letarian, Casey Kahata I see as being the targets right away. If Nehemiah, Tech, or Letarian doesn't win the daily challenge, I think Letarian or Tech and Ayana are going to be I should maybe actually have Tech and Ayana a little lower because they're both solidly in the alliance, and maybe Jasmine wins over Jonna, MJ, some other folks. But you could really change 4 through 7 in any real order you want to, but that's the one I went with. Jody and Brad have to be number 1 in my mind. Janelle, Darrell, Melinda Nehemiah have to be number 2 and 3. The rest, the other 4, you could put them in any sort of way, depending how the alliances shake out. They could go any sort of way. But Jonna, MJ, Ayana Tech, Jasmine Letarian, Casey Kahata, that is your power rankings. As for predictions, we did take a big hit in our season-long predictions on this episode. At the beginning of the season, we predicted before this whole thing even started, the first to go home. We got that wrong, episode 1, and we predicted all 10 finalists and the 2 winners. Our 2 winners, Brad and Jody, are still in play and are now partnered, and now the idea of both of them winning is very much in play, and I feel great about that bet. I would continue to hammer that bet and place more and more on it the more I could. But as far as our 10 finalists, Tyler and Kendal both go home this episode. They were both in our predictions. So at best, we're going to go 7 out of 10, but we also within that 10 don't have partners necessarily matched up. We've got Brad, Darrell, Kahata, Jody, and Janelle are both, so Brad, Darrell, Jody, and Janelle, if they make it, good. But we got Kahata, Jasmine, and Melinda, who none of them are partnered together. So, best case, let's hope we get 5 out of those 10. But our season-long predictions, we make one every week. We add to the list we're going to do up through episode 7. So we'll make a new one here now. We'll make a new one next week, and we'll have 7 season-long predictions, and they're looking good so far. We said we are on or in the water 50% of the daily challenges. We're now 4 out of 5, so that one's looking like a lock. Actually is a lock if there's only going to be 8 or 9. I guess not quite a lock yet if there's 9 daily challenges. No, there's only going to be 8 at most, so we're already there. That one's a winner. I can't do quick math in my head, but now in the moment I'm doing it again, and boom, that one's a win. Post episode 2, we said Life Shield be used at least 50% of the time. We're now 7 out of 8. That one's essentially a win too. Darrell doesn't see an elimination. So far, so good. Key West duo would become the swing votes. Tyler and Janelle. That one officially is no. They did not. Tyler is gone. So we got that one wrong. 3 King Alliance would get worked by Brad, Darrell, and their alliance. so far, although they have not been eliminated, they have continued to get thrown into elimination and elimination after elimination. So far, I would say they are kind of getting worked by Brad and Darrell. We will see where it ends up. That'll be more about who goes home when. As for our new prediction, I did not actually remember to make one before I started recording, so I do have to do this straight up off the top of the dome in the moment. And so I am going to say that I'm going to go with MJ and Jonna flip and join the other side, the other team, and do flip the alliance sometime in the next 2 episodes here. Either next episode is going to be the prime moment for it, but Jasmine being with Letarian, I think, is going to pull Jonna, and MJ being at the bottom potentially of his alliance is going to maybe pull him. So I see MJ and Jonna flipping on the Brad, Jody, Darrell, Janelle alliance, whatever if they ever give themselves a name, they're probably too smart to do that. But if they ever do, MJ, Jonna flipping on that alliance. That is our new prediction of the week. And that, for now, is all for this episode and this podcast. So we're in the back half of the season. There's only, we assume, 7, 8, 9, 10, 4 episodes left of All-Stars. We will continue to cover them all every single Thursday. We will be back next week to Thursday. There's no more big movie premieres the next few weeks, at least, that I'm dying to attend. So we will be back to our regularly scheduled Thursday afternoon. Probably even a little bit earlier now with, maybe not next week. We still got to watch the Spies, Lies, and Allies reunion and maybe film that night, that late Wednesday night. But I'll be able to get up earlier on Thursdays once Spies, Lies, and Allies is totally done. So we'll be here Thursdays. We'll be back next Tuesday with a review preview focused mostly on All-Stars. Maybe a little bit of Spies, Lies, and Allies or just general challenge news mixed in there, but mostly on All-Stars. At least 2 pods next week, maybe a third. We shall see. Thank you for being here. Hit that follow, hit that subscribe button. Go over to Instagram, follow us there at Challenge Historian. Appreciate you following, listening, subscribing anywhere and everywhere that you do. Thank you so much for that. Have a wonderful weekend to all of you. I will talk to you next week. Until then, peace.